So we're going to do a systems of equation problem here with two unknowns. And you're going to see these in word problems quite a bit. In this case, we're going to do hammers and screwdrivers. Sometimes you'll see them as chips and dips or apples and oranges. It doesn't matter. So in this case, I'm going to look at the number of hammers and the number of screwdrivers that you can get at a hardware store. So the first thing we would do is we want to assign each of these a variable. So we're going to just go with X for hammers and then Y for screwdrivers. So in this case, we're given in the initial in the word problem, it's going to say that we had 3 hammers, or 3x, and 2 screwdrivers. So hammers, screwdrivers were bought at a hardware store, and the total was $19. Okay, so what our goal is we're going to have to find out how much the hammers cost and how much the screwdrivers. And the way it is now, we can't do that. So we need a second equation to figure out how to do that. So in the second equation, we're going to say that we had 2 hammers and 7 screwdrivers, and that cost us $24. So now we have a system. So we have 3 hammers and 2 screwdrivers cost $19, and then we had 2 hammers and 7 screwdrivers cost $24. So once we have this set up, we can start figuring out what each one of these things cost. So I'm going to switch papers now so we have some room. Which I'll obviously get rid of some editing. Okay, so the first thing we want to do is we want to balance these. So we want to get either this equal to the same as this or this equals to that. So I look at these two numbers and I'm saying, oh, 3 and 2, it's easier to get those two to equal the same thing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply this entire equation by 2 on both sides, and that will turn this into a 6, and then I'm going to multiply this entire equation by 6, and that will turn this into a 6 as well, and then I can subtract them out. So watch what I'm doing here. So the first thing I want to do is I want to multiply this on both sides by 2. I want to turn that 3 into a 6. So I'm multiplying everything by 2. And remember, if I multiply this by 2, I also have to multiply this by 2. So watch what I'm doing here now. I'm going to do 2 times 3 is 6x. And then 2 times 2y is going to be 6y, 4y. And then 19 by 2 is 38. And then we're going to do the same thing down here. Now in this case, I want to multiply this one by 3. And if I do the left by 3, I have to do the right by 3. So watch what I'm going to do. Now, I see that that's going to go to 6, but this number is going to go to 21. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply these straight across. So I have 3 times 2x is 6x. And then 3 times 7y is 21y. And then 3 times 24 is going to be 3 times 20 is 60, and then 3 times 4 is 12. 60 and 12 is 72. Okay. Now, what we're going to do here is we're going to have some negative numbers here, which is fine. So we're going to subtract the 6 from the 6, so that cancels out. And then we're going to subtract 21 from 4. So 21 minus 4 equals 17y. Now this is going to be a negative 17y. And then we do the same thing here too. I'm going to subtract 72 from 38. Now I'm going to do a quick review because I know that sometimes this confuses you. So look, we have a positive 38 and a negative 72 over here. So we're subtracting a larger negative number from a smaller number. So watch what I'm going to do. I'm just going to flip them upside down. So I have 72 minus 38. Okay, so I'm going to borrow 1 from the 7. So we have 12 minus 8 is 4. And now this is now a 6. 6 minus 3 is 3. So it's 34. Now I'm going to put the 34 down here. All right. For these problems, what you have to remember, you learn this in middle school, is when you switch them like this, you go back to the original and you keep the sign of the larger number. So the larger number here was 72. So it's a negative 34. So I have a negative 34 here and a negative 17 here. So what I want to do is I want to get rid of this negative 17 now. I divide both sides by negative 17. So I have negative 17, and I have to divide this by negative 17. So a negative 17 over a negative 17 cancel out. Don't forget that's a positive. A negative over a negative is a positive. So all we're left here with is y. Y equals a negative over a negative. Now again, this is going to be a positive, and I know that 17 goes into 34 twice, but I'm going to go, just to show you, I'm going to do 17 times 2. So 2 times 7 is 14, 2 times 10 is 20, 20 and 14 is 34. Okay? So we know that the 34 over 17 is going to be a positive 2. So we found the first of our two variables here. So we found that y equals 2. So I'm going to do a substitution in there. So I'm going to go 3x plus 2. We know that y is 2, so I'm just going to put a 2 there now, equals 19. So again, we just substituted the 2 with the y for the top one. So we have 3x plus 4 equals 19. I'm going to subtract 4 from both sides. That's going to cancel. This is going to give us 15. 3x equals 15. I'm going to bring this over here. 3x equals 15. I'm going to divide both sides by 3. This reduces down to 1, so we have x. 15 divided by 3 is 5. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to substitute this back into the original equation. So we've determined that x equals 5 and y equals 2. And now we're going to substitute these back into the original equations to check to see if they work. Now for most people they'll just stop at the first one, but I like to do it for both just to double check to make sure that it's both true. So we have 3x plus 2y equals 19. So we have x equals 5, so we have 3 times 5 plus 2 times 2. 3 times 5 is 15. 2 times 2 is 4. 15 plus 4 is 19. And I see that 19 equals 19. So I see that it works. Now, I always recommend, if you have time, to plug it into the second equation to see if it works as well. So let's do that. As I'm going to draw a line to separate them. So we have 2x plus 7y equals 24. So we determine that x equals 5. So we have 2 times 5 plus 7 times 2, because y equals 2, equals 24. 2 times 5 is 10. 7 times 2 is 14. And 10 plus 14 is 24. And 24 does equal 24. So again, our hammers are $5 each, and our screwdrivers are $2 each. So that's the unit price for each of the items. So again, if you have time, plug it into the first so you can determine your x and your y values. If you have time to double check to make sure that your answers make sense, do it for the second equation too. It's the difference between getting a B on a test and getting an A. I would go for the A. So anyway, that's it.